depth about some of the speaker system and what we have to offer, because there's a bunch of audio systems out on the market. Especially, I was just at Bike Week and all the vendors are there about how theirs is better than ours. This one's this and that one's that, and I want to go over what makes us stand out and what we've gone through over the years with Boom Audio, because the Boom Audio we have today is definitely not the Boom Audio we came out with when we first started. So the Boom Audio Stage 2 is an upgrade for the Stage 1, which some of the bikes that we're selling now come with the Stage 1. If you bought a 17 or earlier bike, they came with standard speakers in the touring bikes. If you buy an 18 or later, we have now upgraded some of the models to come with a Stage 1 upgrade, which is a 30 amp speaker in the bikes from the get-go. A Stage 2 is a 150 watt speaker, and they're a 3-channel speaker, which makes them a lot different than what we had before. So the channels are, you have a tweeter in them, you have a sub, and you have a mid, which a lot of speakers you'll just have kind of a mid on the bike. So if you look at these speakers up close, I'd like everyone to walk over here and look at it so you know what I'm saying when I'm walking. But the sub is, the larger speaker in here is your sub. If you look in here, there's 2 round guys. There's a round guy here, and there's a round guy here. The smaller one's your tweeter, the middle one's your mid.
Does that take any room from the inside of the saddlebag?
Yeah, it does take some room from the inside of the saddlebag. This one's got an unlock button. Yeah, it's not much room. It comes into the very front, but usually you can move stuff around in them. When you do the bigger Boom Stage audio systems.
I don't know if I can get a case of beer in there.
So this bike is not equipped with the most speakers you can get. This is your second most equipped bike from Harley-Davidson. The reason I say that is this bike comes with the infotainment system. It comes with 3 amps. Each amp is 300 watts, and it's pushing out 150 per speaker.
Yeah, that's a Stage 2.
This is a Stage 2 with 3 speaker sets. 3 amps, 3 speaker sets, a set of 6 speakers. We have one upgrade on top of this one, which this bike, if you look, this is pretty much your standard location, 2 speakers here. We've then optimized the lowers. We've put them in the saddlebag lids. If you buy a limited CVO, there's a tour pack with 2 more speakers on the tour pack and an amp underneath your tour pack. So it's a total of 4 amps. And this is what sets Harley apart from everyone else. On these bikes, when you do the amps, you lose some room in back of the bags. So if you had a setup of 4, you would have 2 in the front with an amp in the front fairing. You would have 2 in the rear speakers. You'd only run 1 amp. This amp on this side is powered on these speakers here. What about cooling being stuck back in here? They really don't get that hot being stuck in the bags back here. But what's cool is airflow is coming by the bag on this side and that side, where it's a non-issue. Okay? Because they're not a 500-600 big watt amp. You're not pushing a huge speaker with a huge magnet, so they don't make a lot of heat, which is nice. The difference between us and anyone else is we are sending a digital signal from the head unit to your amp. The amp is then converting that into the power, which goes to the speaker. So there's less distortion. When you do an aftermarket company, J&M, J&L, Rockford Phosphate, they send a powered signal from the head unit to the amp, repower again the powered signal that goes out to the speaker, which is distorted because you have 2 powers going out. And whenever you take the power load and you convert it and make more power, it gets distorted. We don't send a powered signal to the amps. We send a digital audio signal to the amp. It gets powered from the amp, then goes from the amp to the speakers, and that's what makes ours different. So we're able to maximize this guy. Also, this saddlebag is a speaker box. We've done testing with it. When you close it, it seals now. So that is your speaker box. I don't know if you've ever seen one of these fairings off, and I wish I brought my tools up here to take it off, but there's 2 speaker boxes built into the front. And that happened in 2014 and later. Earlier bikes didn't have those. You'd have the sound go through this and everything would kind of rattle and shake in here. It wasn't that good design. Plus, now that we have those polymer speaker boxes built in the front fairing's a lot more rigid. I don't know if you've been on the older bikes like a 13 or a 10 and seen them shaking up there in the front. You don't have that with these newer bikes. The lowers here are built into a speaker box. So what's cool is I can take this system and go all the way to max volume. I'm not worried about popping a speaker. It's designed for it, and it gets loud. So I'm only on speaker volume 2. So very clear.
It automatically goes up when you're going too.
Well, that's if you set it through the head unit. I can set how quick I want the volume to raise or how slow I want it. There's 4 different settings here. So if you have it all the way up, you're not going to get much louder going down the road because you've already maxed it all out. But if you have it sitting down near half volume and you start going, you get that.
Now, can you do that when you got the? I've got water-cooled heads.
So if you have a water-cooled head, a lot of times we won't do them in the lowers. What we'll do to maximize you, we can still do 6 on your bike. Do you have a tour pack on it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because all the bikes that have the water-cooled typically have a tour pack on them. We would do 1, 2, 3, 4 first. That's where we start. If you need more, then we'll put them in your speaker, in your saddlebags.
I want to say they came out with a box, an extended box for water-cooled heads.
Yeah.
I'll have to double check that.
But you lose some room there because they extend the speakers out towards you a little bit more. And then the problem is you lose the availability to go in and check your coolant easily.
Yeah.
You know, if we did them down there. So I'd recommend putting them somewhere else if we could. But I ride
I
with
don't
2
know
of
if I
them.
would want them in my saddlebags like that.
Well, if you have them on the tour, there's pluses and minuses to everything. So if you buy a Street Glide and you want a tour pack on it, I tell everyone put them in your saddlebag lids. And the reason being because if you put them on your tour pack, you take the tour pack off because the wife or someone's not riding with you. Now you only have 2 speakers. If I leave them here, I take the tour pack off, I still retain 4 of them.
Right.
And that's what you want. So it depends what bike you buy to maximize what you're going to be doing.
Take my tour pack off.
Yeah, that's typical. But if you buy a Street Glide and you add a tour pack, I'd probably recommend them going here. So it just depends on the bike and the layout and what you're trying to do.
I probably would rather have a Street Glide than one I got. But I got mine so my wife could glide on the back of it and go to sleep.
That's why you do the Street Glide. Because
And now she won't even ride on it.
well, then we can get you one of these.
She rode on the old Springer. We put 85,000 miles on the old Springer.
Yeah.
Won't ride it.
Yeah, the bike that's more comfortable, she doesn't ride on. It's
Makes
crazy
a lot
how
of sense, doesn't it?
and people go through.
Well, she's a blonde.
Well, you go through stuff too. You know, she wants to ride for a year, then they give it up, then they get hot again, and want to ride with you again for a year. So it just depends on what's going on. But I have a Road Glide, and a Road Glide you're at a disadvantage from the stereo because the Road Glide speakers are about 8 inches farther forward than a Street Glide. You got a Road Glide. So we're already at a disadvantage on the Road Glide because you're picking up more wind noise sooner. They're not as close to you. So on a Road Glide, even a stock stereo, you almost need to upgrade right away. Yeah, you will notice the difference from the Street Glide. So I run a 120R with a real loud pipe. I have a stage 2, just 2 speakers on my bike. I can hear it going 90, pretty good. And I wear a full face helmet and still hear it. If I had 2 more in the back, it makes a huge difference. You wouldn't think the speakers behind you do, going at speeds, but what it does is it increases the acoustics, you know, around you. Instead of just having the sound coming towards you, you're picking it up from the rear. Makes a big difference. So the stage 2 is a couple things. It's an amp kit, a speaker kit, and a wire harness kit. And then when we install it, we reflash the radio to let the radio know what it has, so now it throws a different signal out to the amps. Because right now a stock setup, this one comes like this. With a stock Harley setup, we're throwing a powered signal from the head unit to the speakers because there's no amp in between.
So what do you do with the 09? Do you change out the head unit, or can you put a head unit like that in there?
No, because the head unit, we're not throwing a powered signal out. The head unit, we're just throwing an audio signal out,
We're gonna
which
use
is
the
digital.
same.
So we're using the same thing. It's going to go through the amp, and the amp will power just like this one. You just won't have the same capabilities with the Bluetooth and everything that the newer head units will have, which is nice. And what I'm playing right now is Bluetooth. Bluetooth is going to be a lot better quality file than if I was on FM right now on this bike. And I'll let you guys play around with this bike so you could sit on it, feel the difference, hear the difference. I mean, when you put your hand over the speakers, you can feel the bass. And when you get a bike stock, you don't get that from it. You know, it's a lot different, and you don't need a huge magnet on them because the speaker's only so big. The big magnets move around, it's heavier in the bike, they produce more heat, and a lot of the speakers, when you see these big magnets, it's overkill. The speaker can't even handle the full output of that magnet, okay? So they've done a very good job optimizing it. Plus, when we do the Harley stuff, you guys probably haven't seen this, but we see it. I could take you back into the shop today and show you some stereo upgrades that have been done at audio shops. Ours are plug and play. When you take this apart and you look at everything, something comes off, something goes on, it's factory looking. If you've seen a stereo, like a stereo shop has done or something, it is a disaster underneath the bearing. I'm fixing a bike that someone spent like $4 grand putting a stereo in. I'm spending $2 grand to fix what the audio shop did to the bike. Cut brackets, cut this, filled stuff, and I'll see if the bike's available to get to, or maybe I can pull it out. They cut the plate to fit the amp that they're putting in because it's not the Harley amp that bolts right here. So they had to cut this out to make room for it. And this speaker box right here is what holds the fairing together. And it's no longer bolted like this one's bolted to the side. But these are those speaker boxes that are made into the front fairing, which are nice. And I don't know, stock, they don't have this black stuff in them. They put some kind of foam and stuff wrapped around. But it's just the wires and where they're connecting power and they're trying to get power from. And the wire harness is now cut. I mean,
They really just butchered it, didn't they?
yeah, so when we get something like this, we gotta order a wire harness, we gotta take stuff out, we gotta route it correctly, figure out the correct way to get this bike. So sometimes we get bikes on trade, we put thousands of dollars in them before they're ready for sale. Not all the time, but I mean, this is a brand new bike and shouldn't need all this, but because someone did that, and I mean, this is like house speaker wire
Yeah.
they're running in here. It's not the best stuff.
It's heavy stuff, but still.
Yeah, we don't get a ton of stuff like this, but we do see a lot of speakers set up like this that are done at their house. Their buddy did it at an audio shop because they just don't understand what they have, or maybe they ordered parts and they didn't realize they won't fit in the bike. And it's a lot tighter. It helps the sound. It improves the quality having a speaker box in there. And they're designed to have certain chambers for the speaker, which is nice. So it's not, and I mean, someone spent a lot of money on this bike.
Yeah, they did a lot of work on the barrels and all.
Yeah, you can see it flex.
So what does that do with the structure? What are you going to do? Are you be able to fix that?
Brand new piece, 2 brand new speaker boxes. Take that stuff out. We have a wiring harness on order to fix this because we don't want this to short out of the bat. So then we're gonna put the speaker system.
What was his complaint?
He traded this in on CBO. He actually got the bike almost like the one that we're messing with, just a road glide. So he traded this one in and a bike he bought for his wife that she only put 300 miles on for a brand new CBO road glide special.
So what's his complaint though about the way it's set up now?
This stereo, while spending as much money as he did, which was more than double what you could have spent on the Harley one, the sound quality's not half as good.
Oh, so that's his complaint.
Yeah. But I was a tech, I'm a partner here at this store, and I started life out as a tech. So I love this stuff. I get into it. I spend most of my time in parts. If you guys come in, you'll see me in parts or in the shop a lot, because that's what I enjoy doing. But there's a lot of stuff here. Any questions so far?
Jamie, at what point do you have to upgrade your charging system when you add the amps as you go?
Awesome question. So we have a 54 amp output, which is a new stator inside the bike. Anytime you go beyond 4 speakers, we recommend going to the upgraded amp or stator setup, because this bike, the newer bikes, let's see, it would be 17s and 18s come with a 50 amp or 48 amp. The ones before it came with a 50 and the upgrade's a 54. So it's just a little better stator, a little better charge while you're pushing all that power out. So that's what we would recommend on them. So what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to take turns. Try not to kick these because these do deck, but I want you to sit on this bike and actually turn it up so you can feel the volume and go over it. And I noticed you don't have a touring bike.
I don't have a touring
So
bike.
if you need a stereo, we have that. We can do that setup on different bikes with amps and speaker setups that go in the handlebars or speaker pods. There's all different ways to do it. So if you have a bike that's a non-fairing bike, we can still install a stereo. It won't be as good as one of these because the speaker boxes aren't as large, but way better than not having one. So it's something you want to do. The only thing is, if you have a bike that's a cosmetically good-looking bike and you put a big speaker on the handlebar, not the best setup. So if you do want a rocking stereo, come get with me. Take your soft tail on trade.
Or a new bike.
I'll sell you a new bike.
This one right here is
Once you
available.
ride one of the new ones, though, it's unbelievable. Even the power these new motors make, unbelievable what a cam will do. We put a cam in your bike, you felt it.
Right.
The cam in these new motors, because they're a 4-valve head, 2 spark plugs, it's ridiculous. I mean, my 120R is a non-warrantable race motor from Harley. Putting out like 125 horsepower. I put a cam in a guy's bike with high compression pistons, no heads or anything. It made more horsepower than my 120R non-warrantable race motor. I spent 10 grand on. He spent 4,200 bucks on his motor. So the motors are running real good. They shift smoother. They go into gear smoother.
Changes gears as much because of the torque.
Well, something else we're doing is we're throwing away the chain that Harley puts in them for your cam. We're going back to gear drive because now we have less moving parts in there. We have one cam instead of two. So when we had a twin cam bike, we had to have 4 gears in there to go to gear drive. Now we only need 2 gears to go to gear drive, so we can do them. With 4 gears, there's so much play that everything had to be perfect, and we weren't consistent enough pulling them apart, saying, hey, this one's spec'd out to do the gears. These new motors, about 85% of the ones we pull apart, I'm expecting
Went back to one cam.
it makes sense. It's less moving parts. When you can reduce moving parts in a motor, less to go wrong, right?
More efficiency in the top end.
More efficiency, less rotating mass inside the motor, less friction in the motor, less wearable parts in the motor. Absolutely. And if we go to a gear drive system, you remember those polymer tensioners we have to replace after so long? Well, gear drive, you don't have any polymer tensioners, so you never have to worry about them once we put them in.
Well, like I said, I got a 14. Could you go? What would gear drive be like for that?
14s are hard because twin cam, like my motor. We got to spec it out and see what the run out is in the pinion, which is kind of the crank, and then we got to see some other specs in there to see if it is in spec to do it. That's the problem with twin cam. So we stopped doing them because half the time we tear them apart and they didn't spec out. So we hardly ever recommend that. But the new motors, we recommend them because they're all specking out. It's a tighter motor, and there's less moving parts. The advantages over it is less wearable parts, less friction, so it turns smoother. Timing is improved in the motor because there's less
Do the
Let's
new ones
play.
come with a gear drive?
They do not.
They come with a chain drive. I'm available for questioning after the Zoom audio, so if you have questions on any of that stuff, we can show you.
We've done a video
Talking stereo.
of that stuff, and we can talk about it as much as you want.